Season 2 of Invincible gives us the hardest pill to swallow, the truth that few are willing to accept, and we get to see it firsthand when Mark learns it the hard way. You've probably been wronged by somebody at least once in your life. Maybe it was a classmate who bullied you, an ex-friend who insulted you, or a father who abandoned you after he beat the shit out of you and insulted your mother. Hopefully not relatable. We can't control the way others act and think, which means that it's only natural that out of the thousands of people you'll meet throughout your life, you're gonna run into someone who treats you badly. And that feeling sucks. We all know how it feels to get made fun of, ignored, doubted, mocked. You can throw in whatever word you want. The point is that you feel awful, especially if you feel like you've done nothing to deserve it. So it's only natural that our brains look for ways to cope in order to get through this rough experience. And the story we all too often tell ourselves is that they'll get what's coming to them, or worded differently,
Police, get what you fucking deserve!
The term karma is used to describe this sentiment, and it's often fantasized. That's because people view karma as a sense of justice that's bound to be served at some point in the future. If it's not the good that will fall upon you, then it's the bad that will fall upon them. We have a pretty surface level interpretation of karma, almost like a video game. Do good things happen. Do bad things happen. But in the real world, it doesn't always play out this way. When Mark is finally reunited with his father, he surprisingly goes for the hug. It's an instinctual reaction that reminds us of the bond that these two share. This sentimental moment's cut short once Mark begins to process what's actually happening. This is the man who abandoned him after nearly killing him, who insulted him and his mother, and ended the life of thousands of people. Upon remembering this, Mark almost leaves, jaded at the idea that his father would trick him again and conquer another planet. But then it gets even crazier. While Mark's been picking up the pieces, Omni-Man's continued with his life and created a new family. And that's one of the hardest lessons most people refuse to accept. Sometimes, maybe even most of the time, the people who treated you like shit will go on to live happy lives. Sure, some people will amount to nothing, but others will go on to become very successful. That doesn't speak to an inherent flaw in the system, it's just a fact of life. But there's an even crazier truth that even I don't like to acknowledge. Sometimes the way someone's treated you, the interaction you've had, ends up being the catalyst for their improvement. This means that, yes, that person who was rude to you in high school could grow up to be an outstanding individual. How frustrating is that? History's shown this to be true. A lot of the most iconic figures have had shady and crime-ridden pasts, but they've gone on to do tremendous things later on in life. How do we reconcile with the idea that bad people aren't necessarily bad forever? The only way past that is to come from a place of understanding, but that's way easier said than done. How do you sympathize with someone who's treated you badly, who's made your life a living hell? We have examples of this all in our media. It's a classic trope where the school bully also happens to have abusive parents, or the villain, he's just been wronged by society. Now obviously that doesn't make their actions moral or just, but there's a level of understanding that's now been established. Take Omni-Man for example. Without resorting to the idea of him being evil, can you think about what's led him to this point? And to relate it back to my earlier point, why doesn't he go all the way? Why does he end up leaving Earth instead of finishing the job? Maybe seeing what he had done to his son was the catalyst for his change. On the topic of being hurt by others, the truth of the matter is that people are generally focused on themselves and their own small bubbles. Most people go through their whole lives not having a firm understanding of the harm they've done to others, because they've been living in their own worlds where they're the main character. And everyone does it. We don't always think about how others feel by our actions, and even when we do, it's not easy to empathize with what others are going through. So when quote-unquote bad people move on, the broken ones are left to pick up the pieces. Pain itself can be a great source of motivation to initiate change, and I think it's best to use whatever you have at your disposal in order to improve your life. But what does it say about you when your primary focus is outcompeting people who, to be honest, probably don't even remember you existed? Like, I know it sounds harsh to say, but instead of allowing yourself to move on and continue with life, you end up in a predicament where your happiness hinges on a comparison to someone else. And that can take the form of praying for your long anticipated success or preying on their eventual downfall. As the popular saying goes, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners. That's not to say that your middle school bully was a winner, but it does mean that any time, energy, or brain power you dedicate to focusing on them leaves even less for you. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you think people can change? And what do you think about the idea of karma? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're new here, be sure to go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe for more videos like this. With all that said, thanks for watching and stay winning.